Chase, how is your overall approach to travel, specifically flying? How do you feel about it?
Ooh, so I haven't flown since
I know that you like
the
to be the
pandemic.
captain when you're flying.
Well,
Like,
obviously, I would prefer to be the captain, or at the very least, give me the wings.
yeah,
Like, I
you
don't
just want
care
to
how
be.
old I am, give me a pair of wings,
You
goddamn it.
like to pilot the program. I get it.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I haven't flown since the pandemic started.
Okay.
And for a while it was just like, well, that's the worst thing you could possibly do, right? You're in like a very condensed tin can with a bunch of people from all different
Totally.
places in the world. Like
For sure.
that's pandemic central. I ain't getting on a fucking plane. But now I don't think I would really have many qualms about it. I just haven't really had the opportunity to get on one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not getting on a Boeing anytime soon.
Well,
But
I think I'm on one tomorrow. So great.
okay, well, I guess I'll be doing this podcast solo from here on out. Bobby P's got sucked through. Got sucked through a door.
It's not helping. Maybe this is a bad
No, I'm
cold
sure
open.
it's not helping. I'm sorry. It'll be fine. Hey, it's very safe in the air most of the time. Yeah, but I used to fly a lot. And I mean, what do you want to know about flying?
I mean, I'm good. Like for me, it's more or less like I don't mind flying, but the whole rigmarole of getting from my home into a seat on an airplane, I don't care for.
Sure.
And I will say post-pandemic flying has been not great. But for me, it's like I have a lot of tech. I'm a very tech person. I'm also going on a work trip, which means I have to not only bring that technology, but I like to bring some of my own. And I have to get all these fucking totes out. It's just like put my backpack through. You can see it all. You know what's in it. Why do we have to do this charade of me putting it in a tote? My shoes are already off.
You need to have the right size of luggage to fit through different things. Some stuff has to be checked. Some has to,
fucking worst.
Let me ask you this. Rank them: plane, train, automobile, car.
It's a great movie. It's a great movie.
Yes.
So for those of you who don't know, we're very Midwest proud here on the Casual Hour, and there's like basically if it's sub 10 hours, there's no need for an airplane is what they'll say around here. However,
goddamn right. Right.
I will tell you, I love a fucking train.
Trains are so cool.
Trains are fucking cool. I can enjoy the journey because I'm usually a driver when I'm traveling, and a train, I can have coffee or a cocktail. I can get up and walk around. I can take in all that's around me. And then there's sometimes you can stop and you just get to see. I love trains. I love trains.
They're so good, right?
They're so good.
I don't have a lot of opportunities for train rides. I've taken a train trip from St. Louis to Chicago before. And I've taken, a couple of other train rides in my life, but very, very few. But every time you get on one, it's great. Like it has all of the comfort of like, hey, big seats, lots of leg room. Hey, all the amenities you could ever want. You talked about coffee, but like there's also just like a fucking outlet like in your seat. It's you fly and they go like, hey, turn your shit off, you piece of shit. And in a train they're like, hey man, what do you got? Let's do it. Let's do it up big. Trains are so great. That being said, still love a car. I still like the idea of driving. I take a decent amount of drives every month, like 2-3 hour long car rides, and there's just something nice about being behind the wheel and choosing your own destiny. Like even when you're in like a traffic jam or something, the idea like I get to make some decisions here. That's
you have
there's
a lot
something kind of cool about it. And I know I'm killing the planet by my petrol powered car, but like at the same time, like I like a good car ride,
There's a train that goes from St. Louis up to Chicago that Chase was talking about, but it stops in Springfield, Illinois. And the few times I used to take that train to Chicago a lot because when I worked for Apple, the St. Louis market was in the same market with Chicago. So I'd go up there and I convinced my colleagues to take the train because I'm like, hey, we can go back into this area. We can actually have meetings. We can do work on the train.
Oh, yeah.
It was way productive because like we got 5 hours. We can get all of our work done. We can do all of our planning and just have like this really collaborative time. But what I was noticing was there was from the state parks here in Missouri, they had a lot of really cool like pelts and arrowheads and just like remnants from the past, and they would teach sessions that parents could bring their kids onto the train and they would get lessons on the land. And so like they had snacks for the kids, they had all these tangible things that the kids could play with on the train. And they just went to Springfield. They did a tour around like, you know, Illinois capitals and stuff, got back on the train and came home. I thought that was one of the coolest stuff. If I was a kid and I would have had that, are you kidding me? That would have been fucking fantastic. So speaking of running
planes
on trains,
suck. I mean, they get you there faster, but other than that, planes are awful.
It's like the only thing that is good about a train a plane is, to your point, you can get somewhere very quick. Everything else around it, the seats are uncomfortable. Being a big guy, I hate it. And people probably hate me more than I hate myself on a plane. But all that to be said,
the airport hell is just a hellhole. Like nothing good happens at an airport.
No, never. And I've got layovers and all kinds of stuff. So that's one of the reasons why we're recording episode 383 on a Monday instead of a Wednesday. This is
and also not on a plane. We're never going to record an episode on a plane. I'll tell you that. That's the guarantee.
That is a guarantee. So we're gonna we are if you're listening to this, just know the recording happened on a Monday instead of Wednesday. But it's 383. It's a what you've been playing. We've got a fun show tonight. We're gonna talk about some new games, specifically some free games, and because of that, we saw some news around these free games on big numbers, and it made me think a little bit about. I hear nothing but bad things about free to play, but everybody continually buys into it. So let's talk about it. And that's what the back half of our news segment is going to be. We're going to check in on a few things tonight, maybe, but mostly we got some new games to tell you about. And to get us going, Chase, what you been playing?
It's true. Right before I say what I've actually been playing, I did play a little bit of Paper Mario, and I wasn't going to bring it up, except that I just got through the part that's on a train. Like there's a whole murder mystery train sequence of Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and it's pretty good. I'm not the biggest fan of that style. Like there wasn't a whole lot of battles to do in that part, but it was fun. Cool. What I've actually been playing though is neither new nor free, but close to free, I guess. Like it's on super sale everywhere. I'm playing my backlog game. I'm playing Tokyo 42.
Efficient. I like it. Tell me about Tokyo. You were looking at this being cheap on Steam, but then also I think on PlayStation. But you owned it already on.
Yeah, I already owned it on Steam.
Okay, so you played it on Steam?
I played it on Steam, which doesn't appear to have controller support, which it might be a deal breaker for me. I am not comfortable with WASD.
Really quick, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of community effort for people like you on Steam where they have controller profiles you just download. Have you looked into that?
I haven't. I mean, to be fair, I booted the game up, a couple hours ago. So, but it's probably something I should look into. I could also just download a PlayStation version of this game and just restart it at this point. I haven't gotten that far. And you know what? Maybe I don't need to do even that. Tokyo 42 looks really cool. It is such. It's got that.
I'm pulling it up. I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You should. It's got that kind of tilt shift photography look to it. That really wide isometric view. It makes for great desktop wallpapers and backgrounds.
Dude, I think that we've talked about this, right?
Like, we probably have. Yeah, I bet so.
When did this come out?
It's a great looking game. That's a great question.
I'll work on that too. I know. Okay. We kind of lost our shit about the look of this one. This came out in 2017. That would have been right after we started. So I think that we were still, in enchanted
I mean,
by games.
I saw this at a PAX. I think last week I said I think I remember seeing our good friend Jiggy playing this at PAX.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I know I saw it at a PAX. I don't know if I saw Jiggy playing it at a PAX, but it looks incredible. And you're this guy, and you get framed for a murder, and your friend helps you get away from the cops. And then your friend is like, hey, you know what would help is if you became an assassin. So then we can go up the ladder of the assassins, and then we'll find somebody who knows why you got framed. Which I think is a bad premise. I don't think that's a good reason to become an assassin.
No,
but you decide to do it, and also apparently in this world, death is not a big deal anymore.
This is also on iOS, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how that plays.
It's part of something called Game
like
Club. It's a subscription.
Death's not a big deal anymore. Apparently, you can take medications that keep you from dying, and the reason you got framed for murder is because the person who died was off their meds, so they could actually die. Again, I think the premise is kind of thin and really unnecessary, but basically the idea is, hey, you don't have to worry about killing people as an assassin because they'll just come back. So it's more of like you're inconveniencing people rather than it being a big deal. And that's also kind of the way they get around you dying, because this game is also very Hotline Miami. You take one shot and you're dead.
Got it.
So it's a lot of, it tries to combine the idea of this parkour exploring around these rooftops and of this big giant city, and also doing some point and click assassination murder stuff. And there's a weapon wheel of all the different kind of weapons you can use. You got your keys to rotate the camera. So you can just kind of have it be relatively straight on or to the side, but for the most part, they want you to have it at like an angle, so you can get that kind of like 3-point perspective going on. 3-point, 2-point, I don't know.
What's wild about what you're saying right now? I was I can't remember where I was watching this, but there was somebody. It might actually been a podcast. Anyway, they were talking about, there was a booth set up, and they talked about the time when controllers were coming. And people who were playing with the mouse and keyboard were like, this feels weird. I can't do this. And what's happening today, and you're really going to hate this, I'm sorry I'm even saying this, is there are kids who view controllers the same way you view WASD that would prefer just a touch screen. They just... I mean,
that was like what the whole Wii was built around, right? Is like you give an Xbox 360 controller to a boomer, and they look at that like you've got two heads, but you give them a thing that looks like a remote control. Hey, so they sure as shit know how to use that. And then it's all motion stuff. Like, hey, they can understand this. Kind of similar with the DS with the touchscreen. So and then to your point, smartphones, everything's a touchscreen, and now you have like a whole new generation that doesn't understand how to use actual controllers. Totally. And VR fits into that somewhere as well. I didn't do a whole lot of PC gaming when I was growing up, and I just don't have that muscle memory. So like I'm looking down every time I need to hit the tab key to open up my weapon wheel, and in a game that's all about one-hit kills, that doesn't work. You can't. It's even when they're trying to ease you in, there is like an easy mode where you can get a shield, which I didn't do. I just played the normal version. But the biggest problem with the game is that because of the perspective and because the really zoomed out perspective that they have for the camera, it's so hard to judge things. When you aim, they do give you like a little line to show you where you're actually going to hit things, and that's really nice. But even then, it's a lot of like, hey, you should jump from this building to this other building, and you start to jump and you go, oh, that building's actually nowhere close to this other building. It just looked like it because of the perspective. And then you fall to your death, and then you have to respawn. Now they do have, they try to help you a little bit by having like a little circle that shows your shadow of where you're going to land at any one time. And the jumping is really slow, and
there's some verticality
you have a lot of air
to it
control
with all that.
Oh, a lot of verticality. Yeah.
Okay.
And they do try to give you some stuff like you're really slow in the air. You have a lot of air control, so you can try to save it a lot. You can save like a bad jump, but even still, I was falling off buildings constantly, and it's like part of me is like I don't know, man. I don't know if I can. This game's gorgeous, but I just don't know if I can vibe with what it's giving me to do. It's just kind of difficult. Now, again, you can change perspectives as you're jumping, and that can probably help. It's almost like a Fez-like quality of you're not using it to solve puzzles exactly, but you are using it to see more of the world and know, I can make that jump. But again, for me, who is not comfortable with using WASD, I'm sure as shit not comfortable using Q and E to also change my perspectives while I'm trying to run. It was just kind of a mess for me. I think I'd have a much better time if I was trying to play this on PlayStation, but even so, I think the game still has issues. I do remember reading about issues with this game that are very similar to the things that I've been talking about with perspectives and jumping at things that weren't there. And I'm going to keep on trying. Yeah, I might end up getting it on PlayStation and give it another shot there, but I'm glad I played it, and I'm also glad I already owned it, so I didn't have to spend any additional money on it.
That helps, right?
Yeah, it seems like a cool game. I just don't know if it's a good game exactly.
Yeah, no, I think all the reviews I saw when I was looking it up, like it's like at 3.5 stars on the App Store. Most other outlets gave it somewhere between like a 60 or a 70. Yeah. So it seems like it's pretty middling, but maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's more style over substance, it seems like, or just poorly executed.
It's real good style though.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a few of those this year. I mean, I think Harold Halibut comes to mind. Like that game had great style. I mean, we've had a few of those, and we'll talk more about it in December. But I'm glad you got to it. I'm curious to check and see if you can find a controller profile on Steam before you go and grab it on. And if you decide you want to go through those things, do it. But I would say check and see if you can do that first.
Okay.
Right on. So Chase checked in on Paper Mario. He had a little train ride there, and he checked out his backlog roulette, which you can go back to our July preview episode and see us spin that wheel if you want to and learn more about it. But Tokyo 42, we'll maybe hear more about it in the future.
Yeah.
Chase, I also took advice from our July preview episode, and I am now playing two video games.
It's not the advice you were supposed to take, bud.
I'm having a really good time. I'll say that much right now.
You know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
it's the kids who are wrong.
The kids are the ones who are right? Because like all the kids are playing these.
I'm playing the first Descendant, and I'm playing Zenless Zone Zero. We're going to start with the first Descendant here. This came out on June 30th. This is put out, developed and published by Nexon. They've got a bit of a record, not the best, I think, when it comes to a lot of free-to-play games. So this is on Xbox Series X and S. It's on PlayStation 5, maybe PlayStation 4. It is on PC. That's where I'm playing it. And it is the biggest free-to-play craze. It's currently the #1 game on Steam. A lot of people playing it right now. The servers had been cooked the very first day, but they've put out a few patches. Seems to be going pretty good. This is a studio based out of South Korea. It has a really good look to it. The game is Unreal Engine 5. Graphically, it's there. It reminds me a little bit of the way Zack Snyder approached like his design for the DC characters, especially like Darkseid and some of those characters. Very big, like interlocking mechanical parts of armor. It's like Transformers-esque at times, but it is a hero. It's a third person,
but also big round butts.
Oh, it's a very horny game. It's a very horny game.
Yeah.
A lot of jiggle mechanics. They have schoolgirl outfits, maid outfits.
Sure, absolutely.
but then they have like leather, spandex, very tight fitting things. Like I'm sure if you've not played this game, you've at least seen or heard of Bunny and the even more elusive Ultimate Bunny, whose butt cheeks are. Just look up Ultimate Bunny, Chase. That's all I need to do while we're talking here.
All right, yeah, I'll get put on a list somewhere, and I'll write Ultimate Bunny into my Google search.
But the game is a looter shooter third person hero adventure, I guess is the best way to put it.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Ultimate Bunny.
That's
Yep. So
farm Ultimate Bunny fast.
Yeah. So that's the thing. There are, how many characters are in this right now? Because that's the big thing to talk about here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 14 available today. Descendants. You can choose 3 to start with, which is Lepic, Ajax, and Visa, I think is how you say her name. Those are your 3 choices, but they immediately, like the first quest is like, you're going to go build Bunny, and they teach you how to do that. So
okay. You said hero shooter. So like, but it's not like
Overwatch. It's Overwatch. It's like Destiny or Warframe, but with named heroes. And each hero,
all the Destiny YouTubers I follow are dipping their toe into First Descendant. I think they're like just like they do this with a lot of these games, but like this is just another one where they're like, if this whole Destiny thing goes to shit, I need an off ramp. So they makes sense they're all trying it.
There's a lot of overlay here. There's a lot of things that they're borrowing. Let's just say that much. So first and foremost, the game loop is there are a series of different biomes or areas that you can teleport to. You're on Albion, which is more or less the tower, if we're going to talk Destiny. So Albion has your vendors, it's got your storage, it's got where you can get new quests and talk to people, yada, yada, yada. You, as the owner of all this, you have a mastery level that you are kind of persistently gaining XP on. It lets you unlock new abilities. You get higher stats, but you also get like more storage and more room to like collect shit when you're on the go. Each character has their own individual leveling system. And when you start it, there are 4 abilities that you can activate, and every character has a passive ability. So I'm playing as Valby. Valby's best girl. Valby is my main. She's the water girl that you've seen advertised.
Okay, yeah. I was about to look up Valby, and no, I have definitely seen YouTube commercials.
Valby's
ads
really cool.
Yeah.
If you're looking at Valby, she looks a lot like kind of the like way retro, futuristic, like big, like dome atmospheric, like helmet that you would wear. She's got a jacket. She wears over a bodysuit. Her passive ability is if she's in water or standing in water, her mana depletion is lessened, which is great because you can just kind of fire out all her shit. But I've gotten a few unlocked. I've got Ajax.
She also has another passive ability.
What's that?
Dead ass.
She puts the ass in passive. I'll tell you that.
Actually, when I've seen the pre-roll ads, it almost seems like maybe she functions a little bit like a Splatoon character in the way that she is like
great
throwing out water. Yeah.
So she's got 4 abilities. The first one is called like rain bullets or something. You throw it and it kind of arcs, and each time it hits, it makes a splash damage area, but it'll keep going until it finds somebody. And then she's a damage over time character, so anybody who's in water is just taking damage from her. Her other ability is really, really rad. It allows her to close the gap. This is that Splatoon. You basically get a cursor, you place it where you want, and she teleports to it by going in and coming out. And when she does this giant back kick and just throws water everywhere.
Oh, nice.
Her other ability is that she can skate on water and you just make paths. So like if there's a horde of enemies, I'll do a loop around them and make a barrier where if they come through, they get damaged. And lastly, her big attack is she crafts this kind of like hip firing cannon where you can shoot 3 giant water orbs that just sucks everything into it and holds them in place. So she's really good at like crowd control, really like her style. But you level up your Descendant, you level up the weapons you get. So if you have, like, when you load up a new Descendant, all of your gear comes over to them. So you're just getting a new person with abilities, which is really cool.
Okay.
And the basic loop is you go to a new area, you talk to somebody, there's 3 quests, you do those, and then it kind of ends with equivalent of a strike, so to speak. And when you do that, you have the opportunity to get a drop rate of certain items. And it shows you all the stuff that you can get. Certain dungeons give you certain things, and that's the big gacha here, right? Like every one of these Descendants requires 4 components to build. You need the framework blueprint, and then you need to get like 3 other items. So like there's one character, Freyna. She's another damage over time, but she does like venom. So I've got all the parts for her, but there's one dungeon that's a 20% drop rate to give you a component. And so I'm farming that dungeon right now just to get this quest line done.
I mean, are there ways to just hand them some money and get the character?
Absolutely. And
Okay.
I don't think this game has pay to win as much as it has pay for convenience. And I'm for that. There's definitely cosmetic stuff. You can buy XP accelerators, you can buy characters, you can buy frameworks for that's the other thing. Legendaries are crafted the same way, 4 components. So I've gotten 3 legendaries now, and I've gotten 2 of those built, or 3 of them. I've got all 3 built now. So I'm running. It's very similar to Destiny. You have like heavy ammo, special ammo, so that I can have all heavy ammo guns, but it's going to be hell for me to do that.
Yeah.
But it's not terribly invasive with the money, but it's like, hey, you can speed up this, because like once you go to build a Descendant, it's like, okay, this is going to be 15 hours. Okay. All right, they'll be ready to go in 15 hours. Or I can spend the in-game currency that you pay for to speed that up if I want to. So those are the things that they do here. But I got to say, mechanically, it plays really well. The shooting feels good. The guns are really cool. There's also a grapple ability, which immediate bonus points. I think you should play this with me at least one time.
Okay. Cross play?
Like a fucking dream. I've been in multiple matches with Xbox, PlayStation, and PC folks. Controller mapping works really well. It's hold left bumper and hit a face button, and that does your ability. Guns are snipers, scout rifles, submachine guns, auto machine guns, beam rifles, launchers. There's some really cool stuff, and
any character can use any weapon.
Literally, like you build your loadout, because there's also 4 components that you can put that will give you, like this one I got right now. If you have a submachine gun equipped, it gives you a stat bonus, but then it increases all of your abilities. I've got a legendary one that matches the legendary gun I have. So it does all kinds of cool shit. And when you go into your guns, even your legendaries, you've got these little cards that have point values, where it's like, hey, this is a 2 to use, this is a 6. If you add this card to it, 8% of your damage output will now be electric. So you can change and like completely retool how weapons work, how you work. There's a lot of tinkering with it. I will tell you, it can get, I can see people getting burned out quick, because it is very repetitive. Like you do the same thing on each area, but the campaign does a hell of a job of leveling you up. Like if you just follow the campaign, you're going to get all the updated shit you need to be great. So it is a brainless game, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Destiny is a brainless game as well, so
yeah.
like that's, or at least like there are ways to play Destiny as a brainless game, which are the ways I probably enjoy it the most. So another game where you're basically just turning on a podcast or a YouTube video and like only half paying attention to the game, those aren't always bad. I don't usually mind that experience.
Yeah, but there's a really cool range of characters here. There's 5 characters that they've made an ultimate version for that you can buy or grind out. They're like a legendary version. But you've got things like melee focused people. You've got a healer, damage over time, fire, ice. So you can kind of pick and play how you want to. I started with Ajax. He's basically Shax from Destiny. He's just a big old bubble popping Titan. He's a lot of fun.
Okay.
But the other game, oh boy, the other sickness is...
I hear you've gone fully over to the weebness.
Dude, I'm kind of there, man. Um, Zenless Zone Zero is the newest game from oh my god, what are they called, Chase?
MiHoYo.
MiHoYo. And they've done a handful of games that I didn't realize since Genshin Impact. That's where I knew them from. That's where I've played. This is the newest one in that universe. And I will tell you right now, I think this is the most polished free-to-play gacha game I've ever seen.
I believe it.
This is one of the most quality products in that genre I have ever fucking seen. And there is not a single thing I can look at where the seams start to come apart on what they've built here. It is so well designed, so fine-tuned that I'm like literally blown away every time I play. I'm like, how the fuck is this a free video game? Like, it is so fucking good.
They are optimized to hell in what they're doing, and I think they've, I think back to when Genshin Impact was first shown, and everything people wanted to say was like, "Oh, Breath of the Wild ripoff. Look at that." Yep. And because they didn't do themselves any favors, like they showed off some things that looked extremely similar. Like there was that same kind
100%.
of skull cave thing that you got in Breath of the Wild, and you're like, well, what the fuck, guys? And so I think that game somewhat unfairly got painted as like a Breath of the Wild until people started playing it and going like, oh, okay, I see what's there. And it almost like built up. It didn't take very long, but it had to build up a little bit of people learning what this is and getting caught to it. But since then, I mean, you mentioned they've made other games. I know like Honkai Star Rail 3 or whatever.
I've heard that one.
So they have been doing more of this, but this really felt like the one where they bring out a trailer. This game looks like nothing you've ever played before, and like the hype is ready there day one, plus all of the other complete optimization of gacha mechanics stuff that MiHoYo is so good at. It feels like they cracked the formula on this one.
And they've done a pretty good job of not being assholes. I'll say that much too. Like this one feels really fair in a lot of what it's doing. I'm going to try and be brief because I know we got a lot to talk about, and these two games kind of lead into it. But this one is like, it reminds me so much of Persona. Because you play, like you and I think it's your sister or like your best friend, maybe a partner, I can't tell. You can pick one of them, doesn't change anything in the story. It's just like a character that you're using for it, are kind of like a handler. So you go into this area or this like universe with these other characters that you're not really controlling them, but you're there with them, and you're doing these kind of like activities going against this threat that's happening. I just got to a point in the game where it's like, okay, hey, by the way, you now need to manage what you're going to be doing day, afternoon, night, midnight.
Oh, okay.
And so
very Persona.
Things in that area change. Like, okay, hey, you can go get coffee here. You can go and do your combat training. You can go into the hard drive and do these things. So you kind of pick it. Like, you're not encountering battles just out in the world. Like, you are very specifically like, hey, I'm going to go log in here. I'm going to fight. And Chase, the fighting is some of the coolest shit.
Yeah.
It's so fucking cool, man. The fighting is so awesome. The way it works, you have a team of 3. And you are working on 2 meters, basically. You are taking down an enemy's health, but increasing like a stagger state for them. And you are alternating very quickly between your crew. And there's a synergy that can happen with them where when they stagger, it immediately pops on the screen and you have a left and a right character. You pick one and they come in high flying with a really fucking cool attack. The other thing is you can do like a perfect timing where you can bring them into like break an attack or block an attack and then take over the fight. Yeah. And these are characters that have elemental abilities. So they might be somebody with ice or fire or a different type of energy that you can implement into it. And it is so bombastic and hyper fucking stylized. Like when you kill an enemy, it says wipe out and it freezes the screen and does I'm sure you've seen this. Have you played it?
I've not played it, but okay. It just, when you talk about it, and from what I've seen, it feels like somebody took Marvel vs. Capcom and said, what if we turned this into like a 3D like an actual 3D RPG, action RPG. Like the way you're talking about, like bringing in other characters who are able to like switch in at this point, like this kind of 3v3 almost feel to it, and swapping in characters and doing these bonus attacks and the parry stuff. Yeah, I mean, I've seen this in other games. Like, hey, if you want to talk about Dynasty Warriors, and like, hey, yeah, they definitely implemented some systems where you can swap in 3 different characters, but not to the bombast that this game has. Just you're right that the amount of polish of, we basically took all the coolest anime fight scenes you've ever seen and made it work in video game form, and now here it is for you to enjoy.
It's really cool. Like there's like, it's very simple combat. It's literally dodge, it's basic attack, and a like higher level of attack. But you can, some characters let you kind of hold and build that up. There's one character everybody's trying to get right now. I think her name's Ellen. I think she's a maid shark. Like literally has a shark
I was gonna ask if you liked the shark maid.
She's really fucking fun. She has a very unique ability where if you hold down dodge, she uses a scissor first of all, which is like a really cool weapon. She goes into like this predatory hunting mode, and you can run into somebody and then hold your attack and get like, she has a whole thing where she's building up ice charges, and then you can unleash a really cool attack with her tail and the scissors, and this really great area of effect. The cool thing about this is they give you in-game rewards like currency to just demo characters, and they rotate them out. So you can kind of go through like these little combat vignettes with them and get a feel for them. And then, hey, I really want to work towards it. She's the big one they're advertising where, hey, she's like an S tier. You can get her right now. There's a lot of,
but you don't. But you kind of mentioned it there. You don't have to buy any characters to be able to get through this game. They give you enough things where you can demo the character to get through a mission. Yep. So you, we talked about it some last week, but like they have made inroads to try to make this even more free to pay friendly than any of their previous games, where it's like you don't have to really grind at all in this.
No.
Like, there's no stamina meters, there's none of that bullshit. You could just go in and play the game start to finish with the stuff they give you, and everything else is just kind of a bonus for you to keep grinding with or keep doing more stuff with.
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to get it. Like there's also a really cool, you're going to love this, in-game photography where there's like missions to go and take pictures of shit.
Great.
And they give you currency for it. And it's really like, hey, we want you to go find a few cats that are by these, like take pictures of the cats. The other thing is that they do a system called trial heroes or something to that degree, where if it's a story mission, they'll just give you the people that it's in the stories. Like, hey, you can use them as a toggle switch. If you don't want to deal, like maybe you don't have high enough level people or anything like that, you just flip on trial. It puts the story characters in your team. You go out and run with them. The other thing that's neat is each character is powered up by, I can't remember, it's a W something. God damn it! Why am I blanking on what this is right now? It's like the main core thing. It's W bomb or something to that degree. You're getting those the same way you're getting characters, and they have A and S and B versions of it. And if you get a lot of those, you can just consolidate them down and like power up the next one. So you can like turn a level 1 to level 5 if you get a bunch of those.
I see, sure.
But they're tied to abilities. Like every character, they might be fire, but they might be fire support. This person might be attack. And these bombs or whatever they're called are tied to the subset. So you can level this thing up and put it in, and really gives them all path. And you can swap them out. Like you want to really tweak these character builds and do some cool shit. It lets you do that. I think this game is fucking awesome. Like, I know we got to talk about the news. I could keep talking about it.
Have you put any money into this game?
I have. I did the same thing I did with Genshin, where I think it was like $5 for 30 days. Every time you log in, they give you like 90 in-game coins or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I did that, and then they had two. I think one was a $5 bundle, and the other was a $10 bundle. So I think I'm in it for $20. It gave you like a bunch of in-game currency that you could use to go and power up some of these gacha pulls. And I've gotten a lot of really cool characters. I don't have the shark maid yet, but I just got Grace. She's awesome. She's like this kind of engineering looking. She's got big gloves and goggles on. She has a submachine gun. She does electric attacks, and she's got a really cool move set to her. I actually got an S pull for her, so I'm like over the moon because that's the one I wanted to get. So I got her this afternoon, and I put up some pictures of her on my Threads account. You can see it over there if you want to, but
It just brings a tear to my eye that Bobby Pease is now the #1 anime fan on the Casual Hour.
I think there's a way to play together. I do. I think there's a way that you can team up with
there
people.
probably is, sure.
So between the first Descendant and Zenless Zone Zero, I think that you and I should find some time to check those out and go through it. But that led me to talking about the news, and I know we don't have a ton of time for it tonight, but this game has been downloaded over 50 million times in its first week. And it made me thinking about, like, people like to bitch a lot about free to play and gacha, and we've certainly been critical of it here on the show, but like I feel like this is one that's only getting more momentum the faster we go here. And I don't quite know what will slow it down, if anything. But tonight I thought you and I could take a look at some of the overviews here of like what's going on with free to play and gacha mechanics and where things are at. So we know that there's a wide range of things that we've talked about, two very different games that both borrow similar things, but like most genres, there's subgenres. And I think free to play is been kind of co-opted by a lot of other things and trends in games. So let's just break down really quick. You got free to play, you've got some gacha in there. We've seen battle passes in a lot of games, microtransactions, all that shit to offset it. Card battlers are really using it, MMOs, etc. And I think there's also, for us, there's been a lot more of this brought over to console, where it's been pretty prominent on mobile for years now, early 2000s to now. So like just a quick like state of the state here. Those are some of the areas I see it most. Anything that you want to add or build off of on that?
Yeah, I mean, you have it in some of the notes that you wrote here. Like these games really like rose to prominence from Asia, and it's a lot of people going to like internet cafes because they don't have a computer at home, and that's where you see things like Maple Star that got real big. Not Asian, but RuneScape was kind of that over here. I definitely went through my Neopets phase. Maybe you did too. Of just playing stuff in computer labs, and yeah, I think it really was just this idea of, hey, free game. You're telling me I got this game that I can play for free, and I think there are still elements of that today that make these games really popular. Like one of the reasons all these people are playing Fortnite is because it's free, and like in many cases, I don't know if it's true with Fortnite, but for many of these games, when something's just free, you don't need to ask a parent's permission to be able to download it. You can just download it. Like you don't have to give a credit card. You don't have to give anything. You can just download and start playing it. And so the barrier to entry is so low on some of these things that you just get. Yeah. So when you're telling me that Zenless Zone Zero has 50 million downloads, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, because what's the downside? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, on Steam, First Descendant has over 40,000 reviews since June 30th. Like,
totally, it's a really easy way to get a lot of people playing your game. But the problem with that is, how do you make money off of that? Like if a game is literally free to play, right, how are you going to make that profitable? And the answer is all the stuff you brought up. It's
Ultimate Bunny. That's all it is.
Well, exactly. Yes, you make. I mean, it is though. Like one of the things I wrote in my notes is like the reason these games are so appealing, and especially the way that these games make money, is catering to this lowest common denominator, and one of those lowest common denominators is sex sells, baby. Give us the bunny girl with the fat ass. Like that's just how you sell this shit. You have a question here of like, are there any gacha games that are gacha or free to play games that you're playing right now? Obviously you're playing Zenless Zone Zero and First Descendant. Are there any other ones for you?
Well, I mean, tomorrow I'll be playing Once Human as well. That's a free to play survival game. But I go in waves. Like I played Diablo Immortal all the way through. That was a free I mean, certainly it took something from me, but I've played that, and then Destiny I played for a bit, but I played Destiny before it was free, everybody.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, like I don't have a game that I've checked in on consistently there, I should say.
Yeah. Whereas I do, like I kind of have two right now. One of them is Magic Arena.
Oh yeah.
Where, you know, that is free to play. You don't have to put any money into it. I think I've put I bought like one big chunk of coins to buy some packs, and then they also have a battle pass thing that I got in on this season. I don't know if I'll do it for another season, but just the idea of like, hey, you know, the more matches you play, you'll get some more packs of cards, and you can use those cards. But essentially, you don't have to spend any money to play these. They even give you free decks to start with, and like, hey, here's some decks. You can play, you can get new cards, and you can enhance those decks. You don't need to put a dime in here. But then, like, Fire Emblem Heroes, it's still there.
That was the one. There. And I was gonna ask. So I got these questions here.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable talking about what you spent
Fuck
on?
No.
Okay.
No.
I figured that was it.
Fire Emblem Heroes, absolutely no. And I wouldn't even know. I could not give you an accurate guess. And it's bad. But I will tell you that it goes in waves. There was a time where that game was getting a lot of money out of me, and today it's not getting any. I am fine. I don't need every single character that comes out of that game. When that game first came out and all the characters were relatively easy to get, you would have to spend some money, but like there weren't all that many characters. You could collect them all. And then you're like, okay, for the first handful of banners where they add 3-4 new characters, you go, okay, I can try getting all of them. Oh, that guy looks cool. I need to get him. But now they bring out characters so frequently, and they're not always ones that fit into your builds of the things of like, oh, you have a team of 4, and okay, I need characters that do this, and I need a character that does that, and you know, this one doesn't really fit in, or it doesn't quite, I'd have to change up the way I do things, and I just don't think I really need that character, or it's made for a specific mode that you don't play, and you go, yeah, I can kind of skip this one. But then other times, you know, the banner that's out right now, they brought my wife Petra back.
There you go.
From Fire Emblem Three Houses, and you know, lowest common denominator, it's the summer one, so she's in a hot bathing suit, and
sex sells.
Yeah, okay, I need that, I guess. And in that same banner, here's my other wife from Fire Emblem Engage, Rosemary. And I'm like, well, I got to get Rosemary. She's great.
I think that the other question I have here are like, do you have any rules when approaching these types of games? And you asked me how much money I'd put into Zenless Zone Zero earlier.
Yeah.
I think for the longest time we've been operating with the mindset that video games cost $60. They are starting to cost $70. I've always told myself when I have these types of games, that is your cap. $60. Like, you will put into this what the standard MSRP for a game is. Now, that is usually like most games. Like, I don't play a lot of the same game over and over again. We've talked about this before. Right. The same way. But when new seasonal content comes out, or if they keep putting good things into it post that first year, I feel like they are putting time and effort into this. They're asking me to do the same thing. So I will usually vote with my dollar, and that will come in the form of a cosmetic. A game like the first Descendant, you could get really stupid and buy skins for all these characters because you're getting them, you're leveling them up. They have weapon skins also, and that's a little bit easier because that goes with everybody. I have a rule for this game. If I stick with it, unless they put another Descendant out down the line that I start to mainline, I'm only going to really add in some of the skin enhancements for Valby at this point. Everybody else, like, I might unlock and work to unlock them and spend some money to get the characters. But that's my rule when I approach these types of games. Do you have any guardrails like that?
Yeah, I think for a long time I was with you in that, you know, $60, that's the cap on any of these. But then, you know, especially with something like Fire Emblem Heroes, when I'm playing that game, you know, 5-10 minutes a day, but you play that for so many days that you start to look at the time that you've put into it and go, well, I've put in way more hours into this game than random $60 video game that I bought. And you go, maybe I changed the calculus on that a little bit of,
Yeah.
okay, maybe you spend $120 on this game now because you've gotten more than 2 games worth of enjoyment out of it. And also I found the really difficult thing when you put a cap on yourself for one of these kinds of games, like especially a game that has a seasonal thing or keeps giving you new stuff constantly, is that you'll blow that $60 of value at the beginning, and then they'll bring out new stuff that really excites you, and you feel like, oh well, I didn't need to spend the money back then. So I think I've tried to do more of small increments and just, it's tough, but like knowing your limit, and that limit is different for people, and these games are addictive, so sometimes your limit is not a good limit.
No, and I think that's the big thing I want to call out here with this is Chase and I are talking about these, and we've certainly lost ourselves to games. We've put a lot of money into them, and Chase and I are both I'm going to speak for you here. I think we're pretty financially responsible. We're doing well in our personal lives too.
We've been able to purchase homes, which is something that people of our generation very much struggled to do. So 100%. Obviously we did something right.
And I think that with it, there is, even when we go off the rails with some of this stuff, a bit of responsibility. Like, we are not sacrificing other things, places, people in our lives for this. And I'll just say this right now. There are predatory natures of these games that can tap into something that you might not have a lot of control over in your life. If you are somebody who has an addiction to some of these, they use a lot of the same things that get people addicted to casinos and other gambling mechanics.
There's like a GDC talk that I watched that a number of years ago, so I can't remember exactly who did it and what they said, but it was absolutely comparing these gacha mechanics to these casino mechanics, and even talking about how people who own these free-to-play game studios are even consulting with the same people who are working with casino stuff, and it really is so pervasive and so persuasive in the ways that they are trying to extract money from people, and they do it really efficiently. Absolutely, be careful.
Like, these are things that, like, they're video games at the end of the day, and I'm not here to tell you how to play them. Ultimately, I'm in a point now where this is kind of what I put my money into outside of my household obligations. And so I feel like I'm in a spot where I could change in my life where I couldn't do this, but for the time being, if I care about something with this, and we talked about this also, like music. I have streaming platforms, but if I really like something, I try to see them when they come to town. I might buy a t-shirt, I buy a record. Like, I want to support where things that I consume that bring me joy, because somebody's worked on this. And free-to-play games, as pervasive as they may be in some of these situations we've alluded to, if you enjoy it, have fun with it. And don't feel bad if you buy a character and somebody grinded out a character. Like, if that's how you want to spend your time, do it. I don't get to play video games as much as I used to. I still play a lot more than most people, but I have a very busy work-life balance that I'm trying to manage. So I'm going to buy a character that I think looks cool, so when I go to play the game, I don't have to worry about those things constantly.
Yeah. I think one of the other things with free-to-play games, and I'm thinking specifically about Fire Emblem Heroes, but this could apply to lots of other games as well. There's an idea that it's cool to be playing something that is like a living, breathing thing, which you don't. Like, when I play Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, I know that game has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and I will finish that game and I will be done with it, and I'll put it on a virtual shelf and not play it again until I feel the urge to. But there is something kind of cool about logging into a Fire Emblem Heroes and going, what's new today? What's like, there's new content, there's new characters. Like, they brought out new characters a week ago, and they'll bring out new characters in another week. And it's cool that this thing is like an ecosystem, especially for somebody who, and we get lots of Fire Emblem games these days. They're putting out quite a few, but you're still not getting them every week. And it is kind of nice to get that hit of Fire Emblem every once in a while I continue to wait for the next mainline entry. And also, it's nice to have a way, like I told you about Petra and Rosemary, it's kind of cool to get like a second life on these characters that I love so much. But they're not making any more DLC for Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like I'm not going to be able to play more of that game. But what I can do is, get this Petra, and I can play with her in Fire Emblem Heroes, and it's like, oh, hey, there was kind of new content for this game I like. They put Tokyo Mirage Session Sharp FE characters into Fire Emblem Heroes. I know you're going to have to erase the sign that says days since last last Tokyo Mirage Sessions reference. But like, that was so cool to me, of like, nobody gave a shit about this game. Nobody's ever going to talk about this video game again. But holy shit, they put the character, Tsubasa is in that game. Holy shit, I get to play with Tsubasa again.
With glasses or without?
And unfortunately, none of them are wearing their glasses, which is
wasted money.
Although there are accessories that you can put on any character. It doesn't show up in their full art, but it shows up in their little sprites, so you can put glasses on them that way. Anyway, my point is, like, there is something kind of cool about playing a Zenless Zone Zero, knowing that, hey, there's stuff in the game right now, but there's also going to be stuff in the game tomorrow and the next day and the
Same
next
with
day.
First Descendant. There's going to be all kinds of shit they add to that, it looks like.
And it's one of those things that is like, that's kind of appealing. I think there's also an appeal to, like, hey, this is the game and I don't have to spend any more money on it, and I just have it and I can finish it. And I feel that way a lot of times about these games. But there is just every once in a while, it's like, oh yeah, let's check in. And this happened with Destiny, let's check in on Destiny this week. Let's see a new little bit of story. Let's find a new gun. Let's do this new thing. And that can feel routine, but it can feel like a nice routine sometimes. And so I understand why people like these games, even if for the most part, I prefer the Paper Marios that I can finish and be done with.
Well, as we wrap up here, what I will say is I am unfortunately not living clean. So, in a lot of ways, but I do think this would be something that we should check out together, and just to like see what you think. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. I really think you're going to like Zenless Zone Zero.
I mean, if I get the Shark Lady, I guess I have to play it, right?
I would do it. We'll probably be talking, like, we had a lot more planned for this discussion. We went a little long-winded on what you've been playing, but I think we'll be doing some check-in on these games, and maybe we can bring up just some other points on free to play as we get deeper into it and see what we got going on there. So as we wrap up here, let's talk a bit about where you can find us and what we've got going on. We are everywhere, and I will try and get the social links to work while we're doing this. Chase, why don't you start telling the folks about what you do while I work on this, and I'll come back to us here.
For sure. New episode of Black Hole Sun coming out this Wednesday. I finished up the Blue Moon part of the campaign, and I'm moving on to the Gold Comet campaign, cool. Which is pretty fun. And I think I'm about 50%. I think that's what it said through that game. So still a lot of game left to play, but we're gonna do it bit by bit. And then I've also got Pilot Program, which is a podcast I do with good friend of the show, Pierce Corshane. You can find that at shows.acast.com/pilot program. There is a new episode that we're recording this week, so hopefully it will get edited and put up over the weekend. But we're talking about the 1975 television show The Jeffersons, which, man, I love The Jeffersons as a kid. So excited to go back and watch that and talk to Pierce about it. Lots of good stuff. I'm already singing the theme song in my head, so nice. Good stuff.
As I mentioned at the top of the show, we are going to be not streaming on Wednesday. As long as my flight and stuff gets back as it should on Friday, I will be checking out the first Descendant on Friday night on stream. But you can follow along with anything I do on the internet. My link tree is here in chat. Linktree Bob_Ambi, if you want to follow me there. And you can see all the fun things happening on the internet that I'm a part of. We will talk to you all very soon. Thanks for tuning in.